ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Nobody Ask Me Guy show. Guys, listen, I'm your host, Melvin Casey Large, and you know how we do it on the Nobody Asked Me Guy show. And as always, I'm glad my people are here. So guys, get ready, buckle up. We want you to sit back and enjoy this show. We have with us this evening a young man, Mr. Terrance Winn, and he has an organization called PIPES, Priorities, Intentions, Practical Exchange. Now, within that, Terrance will be sharing with you guys a plethora of information about himself, about some decisions that he made. But you know what? Last week we had a show called Quitting is Not an Option, and only you can stop you. And so this is a perfect follow-up to that, because Terrance is going to be talking with us about some things. And I must say to you guys, this is very personal for me, because this young man here, I knew him better than he knew me when he was a teenager, and we were trying to get some things rolling. So guys, allow me to say good evening to Mr. Terrance Winn. Brother Winn, how are you doing, sir?
I'm great. How you doing?
Listen, Terrance, I'm doing great. And let me tell you, I'm doing even greater because I see you. And I have to share with our audience, I'm doing greater because I see you, because you're still here, and you are one of the young men, as many of them that I had the privilege of working with you for a very, very short time. However, we were still trying to save lives and get people off the streets and get you guys to stay out there on the football field and that kind of thing. But, as we all know, sometimes life takes over. So without further ado, if you will, if you'll start and just tell us about PIPES, if you can tell us about that and tell us how that actually got started.
Okay, Pipes actually got started while I was in prison. Just walking around the yard, me and the VP of my organization, Fred, we used to just always see that nobody from Shreveport was doing anything to really try to help guys that was there. So we used to always just say, man, when we get out here, man, we're gonna start something, man, so that we could be reaching back, trying to help people, because guys from New Orleans and Baton Rouge, they was doing it, but we was never doing it. And so, just always walking that yard, being optimistic about regaining our freedom. And so when I came home, I started PIPES.
Okay.
And Fred came home a little bit afterward.
Okay. Now, in the process of starting PIPES, I know that you've spoken to the UN, you've spoken to several organizations about violence and about the way people are treated when they are incarcerated, and you spoke specifically to Angola. And I think many people, even though they're not in Louisiana, do understand, because Angola has a notorious reputation, and many of them have seen about the rodeos that are held there, et cetera. So having been, if I can say this kindly, Terrance, having been housed in Angola for 30 plus years and having to have personal experiences there, can you share with our audience what unfortunately caused you to have to be there for a period of time?
When I was 16, I attended a party. It was a fraternity party. It was on Christmas night. So me and the guy got into it. Actually, me and the guy that I went to school with, we got into it, and it led to me making a bad decision, and guns came out. And so Jeffrey Owens was killed without having anything to do with the incident. And the one was shot. He survived.
Okay.
And so I was tried as an adult at the age of 16. And I was sentenced at the age of 17 to life plus 25 years, and of which I did 30 years.
Okay. Now, with that stated, Terrance, being sentenced as an adult as a person that has experienced that, and you're having to go, you know, many people have described prison as a jungle, as a this, as a that. And I know, you know, a lot of times you have people sitting on the outside, always talking and dare I say, running their mouths, and they've never had the experience. As a 16-year-old turning 17 and hearing a judge say that you're going to have life imprisonment for a decision that you made, that you, and I will take the liberty of saying, I'm sure it's a decision that you wish you had not made. How did that affect you? How did it affect your family? How did it affect the people that, and I know that's a three-part question. How did it affect you? How did it affect your family? And how did it affect the people that were in your circle?
Um, it affected me. It affected me negatively initially. Um, so I want to just, before I just give you everything about me, I want to say that it affected Jeffrey's family also, because he lost his life for something that he didn't even much partake in. And it's a sad thing. And so, you know, I have to always just give acknowledgement to him,
Yeah.
because he shouldn't have lost his life.
Yes.
So, you know, here I am, a 16-year-old kid, and I'm doing all of the wrong things in life. So initially, it was like, you know, we was in an era in Shreveport where it was, you don't care about nobody else. You didn't care about the next black man. So it didn't affect me to the point that it does now, or the point that it did throughout the years of me coming to terms of who I am as a human being. But it made me initially be bitter, because I was seeing white kids do the same thing at the same time, and they wasn't coming to another facility. I did. So I was like made an example out of. And that made me realize the harshness of racism. And it made me realize how much they didn't care about us. And it made me bump my head enough to realize that I got to change, because I contributed to giving them an opportunity to take my life away from me. It affected my mom in a real, real bad way, because my mom loved me so much. My mama loved me, and she had so much invested in me to be a success and not to turn out the way that I turned out. And my mom and them expected me to graduate from high school, go to college, and be a success after college. But here I was, wouldn't get the opportunity to finish high school, and I would be in prison. And I would never see my mama free again. From December the 28th, 1989, I would never hug my mom again, free. And throughout the rest of my life, because I lost my mama while I was in prison. And who could see that as a kid? Who could just stop them? Who could stop their life and say, man, I'm finna do something. I'm finna make a decision that's gonna change the course of my life for forever. And nothing I'm finna do from this point on is gonna be the same. And the person that loved me the most, that brought me into the world, I'm never gonna see her again. People don't stop and freeze frame their life to say that if I make this bad decision, this is gonna be the outcome, so that they can change the course of their life to do the right thing. So, you know, the course of my life was changed, just like the course of Jeffrey's life and his family's life was changed due to me making a real, real bad decision on December 25th, 1989.
Wow. That's powerful, Terrance. And please allow me to again offer condolences to you, my brother, because as an old man, I lost my mother as an old man. So I can't even speak to your pain as having been a young man and then having been incarcerated and having lost your mom and not being able to be out, as you using your words, as being free. Now, as you share this with us, Terrance, you know, you made some very interesting points, and please allow me, if you will, to share with our audience. And man, and by the way, man, you're getting all kind of hearts and thumbs up, and quite honestly, you're getting some sad faces with some tears, and you know, because it's about humanitarianism, and that's why I have to say this. Uh, During the time that you were sharing, is when I was coach at Green Oaks, and had been many places, but during that time, it was a very difficult time for me because of men like Terrance Winn and other young men, and people were so unconcerned, and they may get mad and they can just turn this off, but they were so unconcerned and worried about winning football games when we had kids out there losing their lives and going to prisons and talking about how much talent we had. Well, when you're out there trying to decide between games, trying to decide between making fast money, trying to deal with the peer pressure and stuff like that, you have people in communities across the country with this fantasy of something that was happening before these type things start to take place. So when I was asking the question, and you covered it very beautifully, not only about how it affected you, but how it affected your mother, I want to make that statement so that we could go to this third question: is how do you or did you understand it, or do you understand it now as to how it may have affected those that were in your circle?
Um, yeah, I understand it more so now um, than I did initially, because you know, most of us don't understand what tertiary means, and tertiary means people that's not directly affected, but they're still affected by your crimes.
Yeah.
So what it did for me was my friend Jeffrey, who, you know, went to Green Oaks with us. You know, he was in a band. You know, Jeff brother was killed right after that as a result of what happened to me. My friend Patrick Drew, he went to jail for attempted murder up to Green Oaks. Remember, he shot Stephanie
I remember.
because of what happened to me. Several friends died. Several came to prison for murders, all because of what happened to me. So you don't see, we don't see the course of things that's happening to us, especially when we play a big role into the things into our dwellings. So I didn't quite understand the impact that I had on my circle until I was incarcerated and these things started happening. And I didn't realize the impact I had until being incarcerated. And all these years went to rolling by. I still had homeboys that was still there providing for me. Young guys was rapping and they was telling stories about me, and they'll bring me up in songs. So, you know, on one hand, you see yourself as being dead to the world. But on the other hand, people are keeping your name going and your memory alive. And so you pay attention to the effects of it. You pay attention to you be wise. You pay attention to the negative effects that you have, and you pay attention to the positive effects. But you mostly pay attention to the negatives because you see that you can change those negatives into a positive. But that's for those of us who choose to make the best out of a bad situation. Some do, some don't. Not all of us is gonna go in and come out like a Terrance Winn. But for those who do, you understand the role everybody around you play in your life, and you understand the role that you play in everybody around your life.
Wow. Terrance, that is really, really, really heavy. Now, you know, I have to ask you this question, Terrance. I was reading this information on you, And I see when you were speaking to, I'm not exactly which group you were speaking to, and I saw you introduce yourself as number, it looks like it's 296659 or Terrance
Yes, sir.
Winn. Why did you feel it important to introduce yourself in that manner?
Because I was speaking before the United States Senate, and it was about slave labor, but they changed the name of it. And so a slave was never known by his name. He was known by his number. That's impactful because we know each other as our name. We don't know each other's social security number, but that's the number that defines who we are. Your name ain't much important. That's why when you go look for a job or anything, they ask you, what's your social security number? That number means everything in the chain of identifications. And so I thought that it would be extremely impactful if I was to introduce myself the way that the system sees me. And so that's how I did it in front of the Senate.
Wow. I tell you what, man, that is very effective. That's the first thing that caught my attention. When I was looking, I said, let me look up my boy here. I said, well, I know you're a man, but to us old guys, you're gonna always be our boys. I don't care. I'm an
Yeah.
old man, Terrence, and so no disrespect.
Yes. No,
And
don't make it a set.
okay. So when I was looking this up, I say, wow. So and I want to call you and ask you, what motivated you to do that? I said, well, I'll just wait until we do the show. So, and that's very eloquently explained, by the way. Now, you've explained several things. You've explained three pieces, three very key pieces about how it affected you, how it affected your mom, and the circles, and how the guys still had a kinship and tried to defend your honor or whatever they felt that they were doing. Did you? And you've also shared, you said, well, I've had, they would do rap songs or they would do things and mention my name and bring my name up and that kind of thing. When you start to transition mentally and think about, well, I I probably wish I could not have done this and could have taken a different path. Do you remember when that really started to come about for you personally? I know a lot of times, all of us, we'll have conversations with people, we'll talk to people, and we'll say, man, we thought about X, Y, and Z. But at the end of the day, we start to internalize things sometimes for ourselves. Can you tell us a little bit about how Terrance Winn started to say, I think I need to change this thought process?
Yeah, I think I'm related to being my walk to Damascus. Saul became Paul on his long walk on the road to Damascus. So my walk to Damascus came about. We had walked to the front gate one day, and the front gate from the main prison is probably about 7 miles, and it was like 110 degrees outside. So we walk up there, and it's so far away that when we got there, wasn't nothing to do. So we just got water and came back. So when we came back, it's like 4 different lines having to go inside the gate. So each line had probably about 80 to 90 guys in the line waiting to go through to get shook down. And I know people don't understand the jargon in which I'm using, but if you got 80 or 90 guys going through a gate, probably like 6 at a time, and they got to take off their shoes, hold up their hands and let somebody pat them down, that's what you're waiting on. So it's 4 different lines with this many guys waiting to go in, because each line got to go in by itself. You can't even get close to the other line. So it's hot, we sweating, and we really, really tired. So when we get back to the gate, the free man, which is the man that's over the line, he said, don't nobody put their tools down. So I felt like he was just being spiteful, just to show the rest of the field farmers, which were all white, that he running us, that we ain't nothing. And there was a thing of degrading. So I hadn't did so much studying at this point on blacks and how they try to implant this inferiority complex on us, like we are inferior to them and they superior. So I lashed out. I said, man, I'm dropping this tool. I said, man, if any one of y'all keep that tool up, and don't never talk to me again in life. So I dropped my tool, and everybody else dropped their tool but one guy. So we go in. So all the field farmers and stuff, they gathering up. They kind of mad, but we dropped our tool. So the next day, we come out, all of the rank and stuff in cars and stuff, they come into the line. So they come to jump on me because of what I did, because they felt like I led a buck. And so, but they don't jump on me, but they lock me up and I go to lockdown for it. And it almost caused me not to be able to come home because they're up against me. They spoke on it. So, because, anytime you defiantly stand up against the system, it's looked at, they don't like to see that type of strength. So, but at that point, it brought me to being who I am today. Because not only did I do it, I seen that others was willing to follow. Because a lot of us as Black people, we'll be strong, but a lot of us are not leaders. But you'll think you are, but most of us are not leaders. But some people, and everybody wasn't born to be a leader. So when you got people that has that innate ability to lead other men, that's a special person, and it shines through. But at that point, I knew that I was destined to do what I'm doing today. So that was my road to Damascus moment.
Wow, man. Very well put. And as I sit here, Terrance Winn, and I have to call you Terrance Winn. As I sit here, brother, and again, every now and then you may see me glance this way. I'm just looking at the monitor, at the hearts and all of that kind of thing, man. Is that this is what an old man lives for. What you're doing today, take it from an old man. You mentioned the Damascus Road, and when Saul's name was changed to Paul and all of this. When we study the Bible and they say, train up a child in the way they should go and they'll never depart, people confuse that because it never says they won't make a mistake and get lost and they'll come back. And see, that's why I want to say what I'm saying. That's why I say he's just a proud old man, because when I'm listening to you and hearing, I know from what you're sharing, what your mother imparted in you, and I'm sure others that loved you and knew you. And even though you were hot, you were tired, you refused to allow yourself to be degraded any further, you took a stand. And that's from training. And as you said, everybody are not leaders. Everybody cannot be leaders, and a lot of people are not born to be leaders. And so as an old man, when I see a young brother that's saying, you know what, I understand there may be consequences, but right is right. I understand I may have done something wrong. However, I'm not doing anything wrong now, and I'm not going to let you continue to mistreat me. That speaks much louder than you realize. So please allow me to say that to you as we're talking. Now, as I share that with you, Terrance, I want to go back and readdress types. Now, when we talk about priorities, I know that our audience and most people understand, we talk about priorities and we know pretty much what that means, putting things in order and all of that kind of thing and intentions. Now, there's a really good friend of mine named Dr. Derek Pledger, and he talks about being intentional all of the time. And when I saw your pipes program and you talk about intentions, can you share with us a little bit about just the first two, the priorities and the intentions, and then we'll talk about the other part.
it's going to prison as a kid. It's out of order. But coming home as a grown man, you learn to prioritize things. And our priorities has to go to our youth. It has to go to these kids. And you also have to prioritize a person that done went through the struggles of doing something wrong to wrong people and go in and get themselves together to return to society. So you got to prioritize things. So we prioritize kids and we prioritize the returning citizens. And so you be intentional in that, but it has to be your intentions to do good by these people and to be a good example. Because we could just say it and we'd never be a good example. I mean, I could say to you all day, Coach Law, like when, played football up to Geo when you was coaching. And I say, well, Coach, I'm finna go lift this iron. And you was the biggest man up there. And so you would know my strength. So you might come test us. And I just saw you do this. Rivero Swan, get on that line. You ain't been lifting no iron, boy. You ain't weak, you weak, you weak, you weak. You know what I'm saying? And that told, because strength. So you'll say something, and he'll have to confess like, yeah, bro, I've been lacking this week. But if your intentions are just good, but you ain't putting them to use, that's a horse of a different color. But you got to walk in your light. So if I'm saying I represent this demographic, I mean I got to represent it to the fullest, because anything I do, people are going to judge the rest of the people off of me. So I got to be the best example. So I got to give you the intentions, but I got to be intentional in my intent. So we give our all to kids because we don't want them to go to prison, because we understand that everything is aimed at us. Everything is aimed at a Black person. Look around us. And we are the first people that always say, man, I don't want to see, man, I'm tired of dealing with race. But the world deals with race. So you got to let a kid know, don't shy away from who you are as a person, because you're going to always be judged by that Black skin. So understand that you don't represent just yourself. You represent your family, you represent your community, you represent your neighbor, your whole city, and then you represent your state. So it's small portions that adds up to a large portion, but you have to show them that. So it's got to be your intentions to do everything right, because they pay attention to you. If you mentoring a person, they listening to you. Now, you said some good stuff, and let me see what you say add up. So if it don't add up, they ain't listening to you. They're gonna start disrespecting you. Man, don't tell me nothing. You saying that, but you ain't living like that. And people say it all the time. So with us, it's our motto to live up to what we say, to be the best example. And we always got to keep one another in check. We always got to say, man, you ain't doing that. That ain't right. That ain't what you're supposed to be doing. So those are our priorities and our intentions.
And you just did an excellent job explaining practical exchange in your explanation, because that's exactly what it is. It's all the things that you've said. Being an old guy, man. Hey, I know people love to say, especially growing up a Black kid. Black parents had that bad. You ain't grown. You just do what I tell you to do. Don't worry about what I do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Even as an old man, man, we are familiar with that, and that's a wonderful thing. Now, you may be a little uncomfortable with this question, and don't answer it if you don't want, but I have to ask you. Unfortunately, there were two persons involved in the shooting, and as you already shared, one of them survived. And I want to ask you, but again, if it's not something you're comfortable with, don't answer it. Just say, Coach, I'd rather not talk about that. Have you spoken with the young man that was the recipient of the gunshot that survived?
I haven't spoken directly to him, but I've spoken to him through intermediaries. I've seen him. He didn't see
Okay.
me, but I've reached out to him and asked him whenever he's ready. I would like to have a sit down with him and talk to him. So he assured me that when he's ready, we're going to sit down and talk.
Okay, wonderful. I want to be sure that our young people, because I'm happy to share with you, T. Winn. I'm still dealing with young people, and I have a nice young audience here, and so I needed them to hear that from you, because just what you explained a moment ago, too many times they hear old guys like me. Well, people say, well, you supposed to say that because you old, and they never get to hear from individuals that have been there. Now, T. Winn, let's move on. In the process, as you move, and as you met with several political organizations and state organizations and that kind of thing, do you feel that you were listened to, or people just kind of sat there and nod their heads and didn't? And well, I'll stop there. Do you feel like you were really listened to? Because I know how politics work, and I would just like your feelings on it. But if you're not comfortable talking about it, don't talk about it. We'll talk about something else.
Well, I know one party listened to me. One party, they may have listened to me, but for other reasons. But one party definitely listened to me. And it's like, and I know for a fact when I went to the United Nations, I was listened to, I was heard, and they moved on everything that I said. And in this situation, I was listened to, I was heard, and they're moving on what I was saying. But there's one party.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
far as United Nations, it has nothing to do with a party. It just has everything to do with humanitarian reasons. So on a humanitarian level, I was really, really listened to and heard.
Excellent, excellent. Because sadly, that's what happens so many times, is that we as, educators or whatever, people love to play with that word about that, well, you heard me, but did you listen to what I said, this, that, and the third? And I love to ask that question because you may not know this, Terrance, but your old coach always been a renegade, brother. I've been raising hell all of my life because of what you are saying, and people don't seem to get it. And that's why I repeat to you again, is that I'm happy to be sitting here talking to you, because you are saying, from a young man's perspective who's now more mature, etc., is the same thing that people try to ignore. You made this statement very emphatic, is that we have to prepare and listen to the children and get them. See, how can I say this as we talk? Is this, Terrance? Again, as an old man, it's been experienced in my life. There's been too many people, adults, that say all the right stuff and could care less really about working with and helping children. They're trying to get accolades and limelights for themselves. And I tell people all the time, I don't know anybody that don't appreciate being appreciated. However, when we're working on being appreciated, I hope that they are sincere about helping young men, help save lives, help save families, etc. So in talking to the UN and now, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was it Cory Booker that invited you to speak?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's good. That's good, brother, because I want to bring that up, because a lot of times we as John Q. citizen do not, excuse me, take time to realize who's really serious as far as politicians go, about actually trying to talk about reform and things of that nature. Now, unfortunately, for most people know about George Perry Floyd, and I say it's unfortunate because the brother lost his life, and due to violence and disrespect and that kind of thing. And that's what I say to people, is that, so you have a black man, and I have to say this to you, Terrance, and I'm so happy again that you're home and that you're safe, and you've already acknowledged the young brother that lost his life. And we know that that was tragic and that his family suffered and all of that. But in the midst of all of that, we know that as black people, the disrespect and the hurt and the mistrust is always there. And when you have people that sit up, and I'm talking about George Floyd, and as we're talking, when you have people that sit up and think that it's okay for somebody to be murdered because of $19.99 and a penny, and they make excuses, and they say, well, it was counterfeit. So am I saying then that somebody deserve to lose their life because of $20? So you mentioned, and I bring that up because you talk about humanitarianism. And I did a show with George Floyd's uncle and his aunt and one of his cousins recently, and with Congresswoman Karen Bass, well, she's now the governor of the mayor, I'm sorry, of Los Angeles. And they were talking about the police, reform. When we talk about you being tried as an adult, which would be a part of police reform and goes up to the judges, can you share with us briefly what was going through your mind, being as young as you were, to hear a judge and to hear prosecutors and these people say, because of the crime he committed, we're going to try him as an adult? What was going through your mind, or was anything going through your mind at that time?
I think it was a big form of disbelief, because I was like, I can't believe them people in Terrance and out, because it wasn't fashionable then. I'm like, first person from the city to get tried as an adult. So I'm like, I just couldn't believe it.
Okay.
Because it had happened.
Okay.
And it's like, man, I'm finna be on the wrong side of history here. My mind wasn't thinking like that at that time. But
Okay.
but that's what it was. I'm on the wrong side of history.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking like, man, this ain't right. Man, this ain't right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I can say this. At that point, we were so programmed to believe in that our lives didn't matter, that I didn't think that they would even try a person for killing another black person with such severity and harshness. It was like, nah, man, they ain't gonna try me as an adult for killing no black person. I ain't killed nobody white.
Wow.
So I couldn't believe it.
Well, Terrance, that's a mouthful. That is a mouthful. We thought, and please allow me to paraphrase you, since we didn't really have any, and I'm gonna say care and respect for ourselves and our lives, because that's the way we've been wired and been taught to believe. I take a life. I know that it wasn't the thing I was supposed to do. However, I never imagined that I could be incarcerated. And this is what, and correct me if I paraphrase you incorrectly. I never thought, and I'll use the word in my wildest dreams, that I would get this kind of punishment for killing somebody that looked like me. Right. It's not a white person. It's somebody that looked like me. And y'all gonna do this. I'm gonna be like one of them Denzel lines. Y'all gonna do this to me?
Yeah.
That's a powerful statement. And a lot of people try to ignore that, Terrance. A lot of people try to ignore that when we talk about systemic racism and us not loving ourselves and how we've been brainwashed and that kind of thing. A lot of people don't understand the significance of what's happening. They'll talk about, well, black on black crime and that kind of thing. And they never talk about 87% of white people that are killed by other white people. But they find a reason to to highlight black on black crime, dismissing the thought and the process of what you just said. Now, for our young people, and I promise I wouldn't keep you all night, do you have any parting words for them, Brother Terrance?
Man, life is about every decision you make. You can't see what life is going to be for you 20 or 30, 40 years down the line, predicated off a decision you make today. So it's best to make all the right decisions. It's best to not give into this mentality to hate anybody, especially not your own kind. I placed emphasis on especially your own kind because you're black. And so it's hard to step outside and love everybody else and then just hate everybody black. So it's gotta start from within. So that means you gotta love yourself first, then you can love other black people. Because we have been taught to hate one another. And that's why we use degrading words to talk about one another when we call each other the N-word, or we call each other the B, instead of saying brothers, and we call women the B word instead of saying sisters or queens. But every decision you make, whether good or bad, today affects you 20 to 30 years down the road because you're black. I made a decision at the age of 16 that I would never outlive. Donald Trump just made a decision a few years ago that he's already outlived. The same people that says keep
Please
kids
repeat that, Terrance. Please
Yes.
repeat that, because man, these
Yes.
thumbs and hearts and tears are going up. You
Yeah.
made it. Say it again.
Yeah.
I made a decision. Say it again.
Yeah, I made a decision at the age of 16 that's gonna forever haunt me. I mean, when I spoke before the legislators, I'm speaking about prison labor. And our senator from this city and this state honed in on my crime. And it wasn't about me. It was about 1.4 million people that's incarcerated. Had nothing to do with Terrance Winn because I'm no longer there. But that decision haunts me. But Donald Trump made a decision several years ago that he's already outliving. And the same people that vote to keep black kids incarcerated for forever are the same people yesterday said that the system isn't fair. But it's fair when it's designed to send a black kid away. But it's not fair when a Republican who's running for president is convicted for his wrongdoings. And we must understand that. And we must make the right decisions. And we must step outside of what the world is telling us to do towards other black people. And we got to learn to embrace one another. So what you're doing right now, do the right things. The right things ain't always the sweet things, but the right things are the things that'll get you by in life and it'll take you further, because the streets don't love you. We could say it 1,000,000 times and we'll still get caught up in the web of the streets because it's so alluring. But you can't be lured into something. Be lured into doing the right thing. Be lured into making the right decisions, because we do not live for ourselves. We live for, like Coach Law was saying, we live for everybody that's around us, because everybody around us plays a pivotal part in our lives, just like you play a pivotal part in their life. So don't think that when you do something, it only affects you. It affects everybody that loves you.
Mm-hmm.
So do what's right. And what's right is just living your life, have fun, and let the next person live their life and have fun. If a person make a bad decision that does something that hurts you, offends you, a simple form of communication can easily settle that problem. It doesn't have to turn into fisticuffs, nor does it have to turn into further violence. A simple conversation can right any wrong. But once you take it to another level, nothing rights that wrong. And you live with it. So all my bad decisions, I have to live with it. And you can't see the scars and the hurt that I carry because it's internal. But I smiled every day because God gave me that. But God gave us life. So man, make the most out your 24 by doing the right things. I know your parents instilled something good into you. Take from it and live it. Cherish what they gave you. Because if they're not here with you, they left a legacy through you. But if they're here with you, you forever represent them. Even if they're gone, you forever represent them. So y'all just make the right decisions and don't let anybody trick you out your freedom. Cherish it. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for listening.
That's very, very powerful, man. You are a superstar, my brother. I'm telling you, hearts and thumbs, and I'm telling, man, listen, Terrance, I'm seeing as many tear emojis going up as I'm seeing hearts and thumbs, brother. So that means you're making a great impact, man. And so allow me to say to you as we end this program, man, it's been fantastic. It's been great. It's been great you sharing with us. And we want to have you back again, man, when you get ready. If you want to bring your partner on, or if you have a special project that you want to talk about or something like that, man, feel free at any time. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Nobody Asked Me Guy show, and you've just heard Mr. Terrance Winn, and I know that you guys have supremely enjoyed this because the thumbs and the hearts and the tear emojis and stuff have never stopped going up throughout the entire show. So, guys, we're just so happy that you're tuned in, and we want to, as always, invite you back. You know, we normally go on Tuesday nights, but this was a special edition that we're doing tonight with Terrance. And we always keep you informed on our platforms on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. So it's been the Nobody Asked Me Guy show. I'm your host, Melvin Casey Laws, and as always, we ask you to take your time and go to YouTube for a moment, look up the Nobody Asked Me Guy show, Melvin Lars, and like our videos and subscribe to our channel. Unlike other channels, we do not charge a fee for subscriptions. We just want to educate people, and we want to bring you interesting individuals that can help enrich your life, or your lives, I should say. So please come back and see us again. So guys, thank you so very much. And don't forget to go subscribe and like this video.